to go home and tell her, you can't afford to miss the weekend, or your husband, because we can't have a recommitment service with, if your wife isn't here and your husband not here, then we're not advocating that you have a commitment to anybody else. All right, so we're looking forward for the weekend. Tonight we want to talk on topic, little foxes that destroy the marriage. Let us bow our heads. Loving Father in heaven, we want to thank you so much for your presence. We pray, Lord, that you'll guide our thoughts. And as we share, Lord, these salient truths that are important for the well-being of a relationship, be in our presence. Bless us. Bless the families that are represented here. Let your name be honored and glorified. In Jesus' name.
Because we don't have all married people here, we can use some of the principles in this presentation for our relationships. Your relationship with your children, your workmates, whatever. So it's not just for married people. It's principles that can work for relationships. The first one
I missed out on something. You saw this lady standing up here beside me. I don't think I had a formal introduction. And I think I need to do it tonight. We may not have a PhD in marriage and family life, but we have been together for some time. What we'll share with you come from our experiences for the 40 odd years that we have been married. So we want to be practical and tell you exactly what worked for us. And if it has worked for us, I know it can work for you.
Okay. Benjamin Franklin says, it's not always the big stones that sink a marriage or a relationship, but the small leaks that are ignored.
You know, sometimes we think of the big things, an affair. And we ignore ever so often those little things that happened on a day-to-day basis. We just ignore them. But over time, they'll have an effect. My wife or my husband, he does me something. You're hurt, but ever so often you're afraid to say it. It's just a little thing. I can pass it by. But hey, a raindrop can make a hole in a stone if it continues over time. Just a drip. And too often in your marital relationship, where folks are inclined, just allow it to slip. You're hurting, but you don't say anything. And there's some folks like that. I'm hurting, but I'm afraid. I don't want to get him or her offended. Sometimes we tend to resort and to become quiet. I'm not saying anything to him. And as much as I'm hurting, I just leave it. And I'm saying, I'm talking from my experience. Sometimes
many marriages do not collapse because of one major crisis, but because of small, repeated behaviors. These are the little foxes that quietly damage your love, your trust, intimacy over time.
I want to emphasize the word here, repeated. It's repeated. In your home, if something is wrong and it continues, you're digging, as it were, eroding the love relationship between both of you. Can anyone give me an example? A little thing that perhaps, and don't be afraid. Can anyone give me an example? Little things that we tend to overlook, but silently you're hurting. We have perfect people perfect husband and wife in Parham? Eh? Lateness.
Ah, yes.
Lateness. We have an agreement that we'll meet such and such a time. When the time comes, like I was waiting for the folks, I said at 7 o'clock, and when it was 7:15, I didn't see anybody. And you know, if this maybe tomorrow night I would not come for 7. No? They fix us. Little things that we tend not to take notice of and by roads or relationships. And maybe be other things. And as we proceed, we'll know of other things. Go ahead.
What are little foxes? The phrase comes from the idea of small animals destroying a vineyard, not by force, but by neglect.
In the Orient, these little foxes will go into the vineyard. Little foxes, and I want to underscore the word little, a little. They'll get into the vineyard and they'll just eat, undermine the grapes until the whole vineyard is destroyed. Don't take note of them. But in a subtle way, they continue to work to the point that they become so destructive that they can destroy a whole crop. We want to make that analogy with our families. Little things. And as Christians, sometimes I sympathize. As Christians, we don't want to sound the alarm. And you know, over time, the love that you have for each other continues to erode. The warmth and the thing is not there. Not because of any big thing that may have happened, but because of these little things that we tend to overlook. Look at the other one.
The little foxes, what are they? 1, poor communication. Talking without listening. So one person is talking, and the other partner is busy doing his or her own thing.
Communication. You know, when you were courting, and those who are married can bear me out. Not so much to say. From my own experience, in days where you had to go down to cable and wireless, the younger ones on the cable and wireless, and you had to go into the office and they give you a little paper to say, you have 10 minutes. From my experience, it seems as if even before you start talking, you hear a voice that says, your time is up. But for those of us who perhaps didn't have to use cable and wireless like me, you go visiting. And even before you start getting to the... And by the way, when you see your in-laws, when you hear them scuffling the house, you know they're making a statement. And some even go to the extent to pull a broom. I don't know how you're going to sweep house at night. If you're sitting there, they want to tell you. You have to go. And there's so much to talk about. Even before you so much to talk about. But seemingly after you're married, people just tend to get mute. And when you're married, you need to have more to talk about. But there it goes. The talking has ceased. And I'm talking about everything that affects your marriage. If the sex is not what it ought to be, you think you should talk about it? I'm using the word, I'm testing you.
That's if the person is going to listen.
You think you need to talk about it? If the food that the wife prepares not up to scratch, you need to talk about it?
If the person is going to listen.
And if your husband is a darling, you think you need to talk about it? Hey, wait a minute. Think you need to talk about it? Because sometimes we're left to surmise because we're not saying exactly what is hurting. We stop talking. And gentlemen, I need to scratch in your corner a bit. We are the biggest culprit. Not talk.
Tell us.
Go to a room and lock the door. I have to come and find you. By the way, am I saying that I'm talking from my own experience? So I'm not accusing anybody. But it is a big concern. And as the thing says, talking without listening. And by the way, two people, and it's faulty communication. Because both of us can't be talking at the same time. The question is, who listens? Who listens? Sometimes we can't even wait for the other person to stop gabbing before you want to get a point in. No. If one talks, the other must listen. And you can't be listening when you're going through your cell phone. And since that cell phone thing,
Brother Shaw.
I see ladies sometimes have four of them. I'm wondering, how can you have them in the hand like if it's a book? And at home, the cell phone seemed to take center stage. But sure, you were saying something? But the church is questioning. If my personality type does not lend itself to talking, is there anything wrong with that? I'm naturally a quiet person. And there's some wives who complain, Pastor, in a talking. The question is, how y'all got together in the first place? If you love him when he was quiet, why are you complaining now? You want to make him talk more? So you got together with him. And this sometimes can be a problem because we want to reshape our spouse into our image. If he was quiet before, nothing says that when you marry him, and marriage is not a reformatory. If he was quiet before marriage, then during marriage, you're not going to change. And the same somebody you married. When and chances are he'll get quieter than you because, and a gentleman, gentlemen, we don't like we're not the argumentative type. Ladies will give you the details of everything, and a husband will say, yes, no. Listen to a woman when they converse. They'll tell you, what time it was, who was in the vicinity of everything, who said whatever. They give you all of these. Save me from all of this. If it's yes, it's yes. Don't give me all of the circumstances surrounding the yes. Be upfront with me. We believe. Come straight. We're straight shooters. Give me the facts, and then we move on. Ladies, no.
But interestingly, before we were married, you were okay with the details. You even asked for more. So you got the details. So, yeah, take it as. But Shaw has a valid point. Personalities, types need to be considered. And if you have a wife who is quiet or a husband who is quiet, it presupposes you can't change a person. However, even if the person is quiet, they can listen. Give me the decency of listening when I'm talking and giving you the full details. You listen.
Well, the fact is, and too often, and ladies, I have to scratch a little bit in your corner. We tend to spend hitting our heads against a wall trying to change the other person that you marry. The fact is, you can't change me. The only person you can change is yourself, your response to me. So if I'm quiet, don't complain and grumble about me being quiet. And the first thing I'll tell you, when you met me, what attracted you to me in the first place? Are you willing to throw all of that out of the window? And communication here is not just simply what we're talking about here. It's a biggie. In too many marital relationships, folks have gone quiet. Things are happening all around them. And they're not prepared to say anything. And the first thing sometimes, so, have you spoken to your spouse about it? I say, listen. I not waste my breath talk about. Listen. The more we talk, and the more you do. It sounds like a rational thing. Yes. The fact is, that little fox, we need to talk. And when you're talking, don't set up yourself. Because if I'm talking, then the cell phone, you should not be scrolling through your cell phone. And that little cell phone is causing a lot of problems. Husband, can you bear me out? Ladies. Time the cell phone in the bed. You're trying to get to a point and so on and so on. If I'm communicating, then at least I deserve the honor to be listening. And I'm not only talking about the men, the ladies. Yes. But nagging. Yeah. It's a good thing we don't have nagging wives here. The wives we have here are Christian people. We don't resort to nagging. We talk about it and leave it alone. Am I talking the truth?
Sometimes we have to maybe remind them because they're not listening.
Yes, my brother. All right, we're coming down to some of the things you're talking about. Unresolved, number 2 says, unresolved conflict. I just spoke about the silent treatment. Is that a little fox?
Oh, yes, a big fox.
Husband, talk to me. I'm not the only guilty one here. I need some support from the husbands who are here. But it can be. All of a sudden, the house gets quiet. Nobody talking. I am the radio on. Everybody in your own little world. Silence. By the way, remain silent. A lot of things that can. I wonder what is happening. I wonder what is he saying. What is he accusing me of? So the silent treatment, and we're playing all argument. If we had an argument, and that argument happened last week, why do you think it's expedient for you to bring up this week? Unresolved.
It's unresolved, yes, yeah.
But if we have all expressed to each other, I'm sorry, and we're moving on. Why are we holding on to it?
Maybe you're not sorry. You do it again. The behavior was repeated.
Remember last week you did so-and-so. And week before, so-and-so happened. And I remember in the distant, something else happened. The question is, when you have resolved the conflict, if it's not resolved then, and you keep on bringing the thing up, you keep on opening a wound. Times can become cancerous. We play the argument, you go over it again. And refusing, and this is a big one, refusing to forgive. How long should I hold on to a wrong? I'm really hurt. How long should I hold on? Come into you.
You're watching me.
You really hurt, you know. How long should I hold on to it?
As long as you want to. But the nice thing about it, when you forgive, you're not forgiving for the other person. You are helping yourself. Because unforgiving spirit, there's so many things that happen to us when we have this unforgiving spirit.
You know, they say an unforgiving person. Unforgiveness is a risk factor for cancer.
Arthritis and all the others.
Arthritis. High blood. So when we fail to forgive, you're doing, me not forgive you. You think me forget the way you do me? But the fact is, forgiveness is not what you do for me. It's what you do for yourself.
That's right.
If it's a risk factor for cancer, some of us, we develop cancer because we're holding on to that grudge indefinitely. And by the way, you're going to get sick. How do you sleep at nights when you have not forgiven your spouse? Because the mind keeps on playing that thing, and the more it is rehearsed in your head, the bigger it becomes. So a little molehill tonight, you go to bed with it, tomorrow it becomes a mountain. Makes it even more difficult. And to have an unforgiving spirit is not Christian-like. Look at the other one. Neglect and lack of time. We put our work ahead of our relationship with our spouse. I don't have the time. You don't have the time. Some couples can't even find a little time for relaxation. To work. I have to work. What is more important? Your relationship with your spouse or the work? Sooner or later, they lay you off, and then the work gone. Nothing is left. Yes, my sister. You're not sleeping in the bed. Yeah. Cold. And you were sleeping in the bed. Oh, you. The sun should not go down on your wrath. Okay. So the water worked. But you see, and correct. I like the narrative that you just shared. What is more important to you? Your marriage or the work? What you spend more of your time with? And when I talk about time, quality time. Yes, the money is important. But more than the money, your covenant relationship with your spouse is important. And it requires time. And we need to, and some of us, we work from sunrise to sunset. You can't remember the last time you had a vacation. You don't go places together. Antigua has so many beaches, you can't. You don't even know how whether the water is saline or fresh. Because you don't go. When you prioritize your work ahead of your relationship, it can have a devastating effect. Can you go back up the other one? Friends or device over your spouse. Who did you marry? And friends, you ought to be careful. And some friends, they're not married, but they have advice to give you. Or they were once married, but they no longer live with their spouse, but they have advice to give you. Don't allow friends, regardless of how close they may be to you, to put a wedge in your relationship. Turn the other one.
Criticism and disrespect. Constant fault finding. Belittling or comparing spouse to others.
Constant fault finding. Always criticizing. To the point where your spouse may even lose a self-esteem. I never do anything right. Over time, it will affect the relationship. Belittling, putting down, comparing your spouse with others. Your spouse can't be like so-and-so because they're not so-and-so. Sometimes we tend to drive the other person up the wall because I know. I can't be like so-and-so. Why are you comparing me? And I know there's some spouse who can't remember the last time you give them a compliment. When last, after you have eaten, you spend some time to say, sweetheart, this was, But you're moved by what you felt wasn't. Well,
Salt was too much.
a little bit salty. But you ate all of it. Not even stop to say, thank you so much, even for the effort. We eat and we belch and sometimes we get up from the table and we leave the plate and everything right there. Not even to say. You know, your wife can be better if you give her the compliment that she needs. Your husband can be a better man if you tell him, sweetheart, you did a good job. Because we're human beings. We like to be complimented for what we do. And husbands, we're people too. The same way wives, you like to be complimented, husbands, we want to be complimented as well. If you mow the lawn, look out and say, sweetheart, nobody else in the world could have done a job. Next time, you wouldn't even have to ask him. Well, cut it.
Cut. And in comparing your spouse to others, sometimes if you feel that your wife is not dressing like the other person, or your husband is not dressing like the other person, use your finance, the money you have to buy your ice cream, and get them what you would like to see them in.
Okay.
What the other person is investing in their spouse, you invest in your spouse.
Okay. You know what? Lack of appreciation. Ignoring the effort. Really saying thank you. Feeling unvalued or invisible. They're in the house. Doesn't feel valuable. I mean, she goes through the motion, just doing the mundane things, and nobody stopped to say, so and so. These are little foxes that over time will destroy your relationship. The other one says, hidden spending. Lack of joint planning. Mistrust and frequent argument. Lord have mercy. I usually say to folks when I'm counseling them, your money is my money and my money is your money. We share that philosophy? Or the wife, she has a little sideway account that the husband doesn't know. Or perhaps the husband, he has a little sideway account that the wife doesn't know. Then you're pulling from the source of your existence if you want to have a little thing here. A little money is stashed away that he doesn't know anything about. Hidden spending. Go back up on the other slide. Lack of joint planning. Do you sit down and plan together, or the philosophy is you pay the light bill, I buy the grocery? What is wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Anything wrong with that?
Or better yet, pull the resources together and you make a budget. So instead of you do electricity and I do this, this is the money we have, $60 for the month. Let's see how we are going to spend $60. So there's no hidden spending. We want a refrigerator, we put towards the refrigerator.
So are you saying that both of us ought to sit down and plan? Because when there's no planning, everybody spends as he or she wants. Yes. what is right about that? Let me get your response. What is right about that? Come to you.
Yes, sir.
If both parties are in agreement. Anybody else has anything to add on that? You share that notion? You can work. Okay. Okay. Any loophole in that? You think it? Everything. Yeah. Mutual agreement. The operative word is mutual. Anybody else? Which one? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If perhaps you take care of the grocery and prices are going up every day, I expect when I come home, all of the nutriments ought to be there for me. But the money runs short. Who gets the blame? But if what happened here? Why the pantry is empty? As against, we have a budget. We have a budget, both of us. I'm not despising what Brother Ting says. We have a budget. It's the money that we work for, your money, my money, here it is. Go through the rudiments of the budget. So it's not you or any person paying the bill, it's all of us. So your wife or your husband cannot complain, why so-and-so is short? Because we know. We know. So if you sit down and you calculate, this is the money we make for this month. 5,000, 3,000. We add both of them together, we give us 7,000. This is how we're going to dispense the money, the bills and so on. So we are both together in terms of how we handle the money. I'm not here forcing what I've done, but my thing is, when both of us become one, we become one also in our finances. And not for somebody to be stocking away a little, even to pay susu. Your husband should be aware that you're paying so-and-so for your susu.
It's your allowance.
Eh? Or perhaps, when you're making the budget, then it's not something to imprison you. I think the wife needs to have a little allowance. And your husband should have his little allowance as well. If you want to take from your allowance to do something, even then, your spouse should be aware. Anything happens to you, if he's not aware, then somebody becomes the beneficiary of what you had stocked away. Joint planning. The monies belong to both of you. You all sit down and say, how are we going to dispense what God has given to us? Too often within our Christian home, what you work for belongs to you. What I work for belongs to me. You can't tell me how to spend my money. By the way, I'm not talking about you here at Parham. You don't do that. If we become one, then our finances also ought to speak to the fact that we are one. This little hideaway thing, I don't want him, no. It's not right. And if it continues, then you're breeding distrust within that relationship. Yes? Oh. If it was the other way around, what would you want? Yeah. And there, to add to what you've just said, there's some folks who feel if I work for the more money than mine, I'm in charge of the finances. And the poor fellow can't say nothing. Because if he goes to say anything, I go withdraw my support. This is why the option of your money is my money because we are one. One. So we sit down, this is the money we have. I'm not saying that the wife should not get a little, she has her, what do you call it again? Her allowance. Of your allowance. Because of everything I don't want, she has her allowance. That's hers. But when it comes to the big financial undertaking, there must be a joint coming together for that. Yes, somebody over here was asking. Yes, and I'm coming back to you. Okay. I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%. If your father's better able, he's better able to handle money, then why not? Because he's handling it for the entire family. Mm. Right. Right. And in a lot of Christian homes, we have a lot of fight over money. A lot of fight. You don't see it being played out in church. Plenty of argument. To the point where hard feelings developed, and particularly if the wife brings home a bigger paid check, who dare you? Who dare you? Because if we subscribe to the fact it's our money, the money belongs to us. And if your wife can handle it better, give her the checkbook. If your husband is better able to handle the finances, what happened? Because he's handling it not for himself, but for all of us. Right. But at least your spouse should know. Not to say that you're going to spend it for, it's your allowance. But at least if both of you want, why would you hide it? You ought to know that my wife has a little account there. That's her business. But the monies to run the house on a monthly or weekly basis ought to be something that is agreed upon by both of you. External influence, excessive interference from friends or family, comparing marriage to others. By the way, a different plan. Anyone has an input on this question? It's very important. I have a personal commitment to God in terms of my giving, but your spouse doesn't share the same commitment. How you handle that? And by the way, you were returning. That covenant started before you got married. Okay.
Who you prefer to make happy, your spouse or God?
You're talking on this? %, but of all. Right. And all of this should have been settled before marriage. And this is why one of the features about premarital counseling has to do with money. You sit down, well, I have a commitment to so-and-so. Because if you can't agree before marriage, and when you get into a marital situation, it's not a reformatory. And that can continue to plague you. Plenty big argument and fight, and the husband decide he's going to throw you off of the bed because it's my money by the bed, and so on. Being going to the extreme. You're saying something. The other one says, excessive interference from your mother-in-law decides, since he's my darling son, I have to give him a counselor too. Because even after marriage, you still see him as your darling baby son. And you're not willing to let go. Why you have to be cooking for him every night? I never used to cook for your father. I cook once per week. And I put them in little dishes and put them in the fridge. By the way, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave where? And in-laws, you need to mind your business. You can give counsel, you can talk to them, but the final decision is left with whom? And don't get offended. And sometimes you in-laws, you all visit too often. Keep out of the people in my house. You put the poor wife under pressure. So why you put the table over here? Why, you know, who live there? So why you buy them type of curtain? You know, see them not look good? Whose house? What you cook today? Your business? No. And you need to be aware, sometimes you're creating problems for the marriage. In-laws must be outlawed after marriage. Visit, and when you visit, your visit ought to be very short. Let them long to see you. So what time you coming to see me? And when you go, you need to recognize, I'm just here for a few minutes. When the time comes, you leave. You train your children to be independent, and you can't keep on controlling their lives even after they're married.
Comparing marriage to others. You are comparing your marriage to other people.
You don't know their struggles. They buy themselves a new car, you don't know. If all you can afford is a 120Y, enjoy your 120Y because you don't know. And because so-and-so may do so-and-so, you don't know. Enjoy what you have. Too many of us, what do old people say? Your nose too long. Everything is the other people have, you want too. You don't know how they come by it. Don't compare your life with somebody else. So it is bad for you to tell, why you can't be like so-and-so? I can't be like so-and-so because I'm not so-and-so. Emotional digital infidelity. Sharing deep emotions with someone outside of the marriage. If your sex life is not what it ought to be, then who should know?
Spouse.
And the danger about it. I wish I had a husband. I wish my husband was like somebody like strong and muscular. Because my husband no so and so. Look at trouble. Look at trouble. You're sharing these deep emotional concerns with a man. When you tell me something, oh, I wish I was your husband. Huh? And you start, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. All of these bedroom secrets ought to remain in the bedroom between you and your wife, not with somebody particular of the opposite sex. When you tell a man that he's just looking someplace to drawing closer, what you think, what you see is bad. Wait until when we get close. Should a therapist be consulted in your intimate life? Should. Is anything wrong? going to see a therapist.
If it's
And what I'm talking about here, sharing these things with people who can help you. And even before the word come out of your mouth, hey, you know who just came by me a while ago? You know what she telling me? But a therapist, someone who is trained, someone who has the necessary skills, I don't see anything is wrong with that. Because there are some folks who have some deep emotional scars, particularly if that spouse was sexually abused at some point in time. It makes it difficult sometimes for them to adjust to a marital. They become frigid. They can't relate to their spouse in any meaningful way. And then the husband starts getting worried. Not because she doesn't want to, but there is a block there that has to be worked on.
However, you still have to be careful who you go to. I would advise if we're going to a therapist, you go to a Christian therapist, and I would prefer you go to somebody who is the same sex with you, because there's this power philosophy things that happen. So it's better to go to somebody, a female would be better. If it's a man, a male would be better. You're just safeguarding yourself.
And by the way, there are some folks of the notion, and we're talking about intimacy, that sexual intercourse is only for procreation. Before we got married, we decided to have two children. A boy and a girl. See, the boy. Over here, sit the girl. 2. Or decision 2. That's our decision. Since we have decided on 2, and we have to, that process is over. Done. Because we had the 2. Yeah. So, no disturb me. Maybe 2. And sometimes, to make it worse, the spouse move out of the bedroom. She gone to sleep with the children, 2 children. Anyhow you get by in room 2, that's your business. But I've lived up to my obligation. We have 2. By the way, is sexual contact only for procreation? Christian people of Parham and Savior Farm. What's your input? So that my husband stop harassing me. Let me sleep. Nobody want to engage me here. Sis, I see you're tickled. I'm seeing your face. There's a little mystery in your. There ought to be a season, and when that season is over, that's the end of everything. Can there be a successful, happy marriage without intimacy? You're not sure?
Once there's not a challenge, because some people might have a challenge.
A challenge.
Understand the spouse. Okay, I married to get something else. This is a challenge, and we have to do it.
Oh, okay. Sister says, if there is a challenge. But as long as they're healthy, it must continue. I'm in agreement with you. But too often we feel that it's not spiritual. It's not spiritual. Husbands are harassing me. Yeah. And you tell him, why not go and take a cold bath and cool yourself off? Or you take your Bible and go and pray. The Lord will take you out of that predicament. You laugh. Pastor, he needs to pray more. He's not praying more. There's something wrong with his spiritual life. His mind is too fixated on the things of the world. What are things of the world? Where it came from? Like the lady who says, Pastor, you shouldn't say sex in the church. You're desecrating the Lord's house. If you're neglecting,
weapon or reward.
so if you're neglecting, if you're neglecting coming together in an intimate way, you're putting your spouse at a disadvantage and he becomes vulnerable. Let me say that again. And being Christian doesn't mean that he has to be walking around wishing and hoping and watching everybody who pass by. Because let me hasten that. Sorry, I have to. There's something on that. The biggest sex organ for man is not in his groin. Can I say that again? It's groin. You know it is? His eyes. And if you close shop on him, and by the way, lack of intimacy has some physical challenges. They say ladies who engage in physical, intimate contact, they live longer. Amen. They live longer. It helps them to get rid of the stress. It releases those happy hormones. Save them from frequent doctor visit. Pastor, who tell you to say that? Well, it's true. If you find yourself getting sick too often, watch it. And the husband, he too. And sex is not only for procreation, it's for the happy well-being of the relationship. And God knew. This is why when the animals start jumping around, God said, no. And Adam was just there sitting with his lonely self. God says, no, not good. Let me provide. Lack of intimacy is a little fox that will destroy your marriage. Physical closeness. When you go to bed, he's on one side of the bed. You turn your back on him or her. You know over time you're in trouble. This is why it is good for you to settle your differences before you go to bed. Okay, if both of you are still angry at each other, when you go to bed, if it's a king-sized bed, And they balance the bed between it. And one turn their backs up. And the other one, he might be looking so. When he has distance to cover, he better stays here. If he only allow his feet to touch me, I can fling a shoes on him. Leave me alone. It is important that you have physical closeness with your spouse. If not, that little fox can destroy. Using intimacy as a weapon, a reward. If you don't behave yourself, don't even look at me. Brother Shaw, your tip.
Before marriage, well, I can't feel what exactly should discuss because sometimes we are from very, very different backgrounds, right? And one may get accustomed to all kinds of stuff, the paid activity, and they don't know that these are the paid things. The other one is a completely different background, they're getting a very upright, saying it. I think we can have a lot of discrepancy in thoughts and, what is proper and so on. So exactly what should they discuss before compatibility?
Valid question. So when you come by me, I know that Brother Shagun has a question. And we go later. It's true. We come to the marriage with baggages. Plenty baggages. And this is why when you start counting, have you ever had a quarrel? They tell you, no. Then, hey, you're not ready for this thing because marriage has its difficulties, its ups and downs. And if both of you are not prepared to work and to handle those differences, you can be in trouble. There's no perfect marriage. All of us, we have our concerns. But how you handle those concerns is quite significant. There are a lot of things that you have to go through. Financial concern, conflict management, so that the folks can be aware. The person sitting next to you is not an angel. He has his ups and downs, and you ought to be prepared. And this is why when you walk up the aisle, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and health, these days they're changing the vow. You're saying all sorts of foolishness without the commitment. Refusing to apologize. There's some guys who are never wrong. It is so glaring, and they still refuse to accept the fact. You're wrong. And by the way, when they're wrong, they make the most noise. If you know you've wronged the lady, say you're sorry. And it takes a man to say you're sorry. You're not a little boy, you're a big man. Apologize before you go to bed. Sweetheart, I'm sorry. The mindset is, I saw me be. And I'm me house, for me house. Me pay the rent, me pay the mortgage. Who am I to apologize? You're in trouble. You're in trouble. Absence of personal and family devotion. Brother Shaw? Only God can change. If any man be in Christ, he's a new creation. And in too many of your homes, we don't have any family worship. And if God is not in the midst of this relationship, he instituted it, only he can keep it. And if you're not, as it were, meeting to converse with him, to ask him, God, what would you have me to do? Then you're in trouble. How to kill the little foxes? Look at some of the things that you need to do. Identify harmful patterns early. If you see the wife start turning up her nose, ask her, sweetheart, why are you turning up your nose? Sweetheart, why are you coming home so late? Talk openly and respectfully. Prioritize your marriage and be intentional to make it work. Make your marriage your priority. Not the work, not the money, not your friends. Your spouse. You ought not to be second thought. Strong marriages are not free of problems. You're intentional about solving them. It is a difference between ignoring a leak until the roof caves in or fixing it together the moment you see the first drop. Fixing it. If you see something not right, over time things seem to be changing. Make it your priority. We're not like before. Before time we used to have fun together, but nowadays what has gone wrong? Communication. That one. Pay attention to the small things. Not the big things. An affair and so on. Don't wait until that happens. And sometimes even before an affair presents itself, there's some predisposition factor that will lead somebody there. Pay attention. Philippians chapter 4 verse 13 says, I can do all things through Christ. Whatever the state of your marriage, spend some time. Look at it. Just don't go along happy, go lucky, and both persons you're not happy. Spend some time. Any questions? Go ahead. Can you pick it up? Yes. clothes on shop, you have to wear